what may just be the greatest show of all time gets a finale worthy of that title. It would be amiss not to mention that The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Ted Lasso, and Barry are all shows that ended this week. They range from, I don't mind that, to, holy crap, this is good, to, oh my god, I love Tony Shalhoub. Yet, all of their respective finales will forever be overshadowed by their proximity to Succession's. I truly loved this perfectly crafted finale. It was a beautifully executed tragedy that at points was genuinely heartwarming, and yet it had zero hesitation in breaking my heart. It had moments that had me gasping out loud with shock, tearfully suffocating my pillow, and cheering at 3 PM in the afternoon like I was watching a kicky ball game. Now, anyone who has seen any of my previous weekly reviews knows there's only one segment I want to talk about right now. One person who's always been at the forefront of my mind. One motherfricker that I love more than anyone else. A champion phoenix. An atomic Tom, you might say. But that'll have to wait. This was a massive episode that concluded a massive television show. There's a lot to talk about. I'm gonna try and keep it concise, but this is gonna be a long one. Well, because this is it for Succession forever. In this final Succession video, I'm gonna have the standard weekly review format, alternating with discussions about the production elements of Succession. As usual, there'll be chapters, feel free to use them at your own leisure. Last week, I put forward that a central theme of the show is legacy. What you leave behind, but more significantly, what makes you you. Your parents, the environment that you grow up in. Logan was a monster who broke his children's hearts forever with the poison he passed on. The final episode was a culmination of all these ideas and themes to ultimately answer if it's possible for any of the Roy children to meaningfully change. At points, the episode gives us horrible hope that perhaps the Roy children on a united front could find solace in each other and a combined strategy to win. Yes, Kendall was losing his humanity, but that's the thing about hope. It's irrational. Of course I wanted everything to work out for the best. I wanted happy Ken. Alas, Kendall. I think an appropriate place to start is with the siblings still recovering from last week. Roman. If we were to say any one sibling made it out of the finale the least scathed, weirdly, it would be Roman, who is by far the one who is the most physically scathed. Roman doesn't even appear in the finale until 15 minutes in, where he is but a pawn between his brother and sister. There's a clear atmosphere change with Roman here. It's like, even he knows it's over.
You don't have it, so why are you trying to, like, fucking get into it?
Nevertheless, Roman's still grasping onto weak notions that maybe he's still got a chance. Even after the tough pill to swallow, which has given King Kendall all the power, Roman still can't let it go. That bitter entitlement that Logan instilled is still swimming along. And Roman is fumbling for any excuse as to not give up his power to Kendall. Kieran Culkin goes through the ringer of emotions as shame pings him that he'll look weak, that maybe he shouldn't back Kendall.
The optics, it's dumb, but the stitches, they're good stitches, they're good.
He knows there's no good excuse other than Roman's own instilled notion that he is a sickly, pathetic child who rolled over for his older brother. This leads to an agonizing scene where Kendall physically abuses Roman just like Logan would to put him back in his place. Roman needed a good excuse. Now he has one. Sit down, you fucking bitch. It's awful. It is. Phew. What hurts the most isn't the on-screen violence, but the contrast to how beautiful the siblings were together just 20 minutes earlier. When they all finally get on the same page about backing Kendall. We get one of the, if not the most heartwarming scenes of the show.
Lisa doesn't like the nobbies, darling. You're a nobby.
You're a knobby, catch it.
You're a nobby.
Okay, now 3 in a row. How did you do that?
I really connected with these scenes. There's no better way to word it. I have a younger brother and sister. We've hardly got along in life because despite our appearance similarities, we're just different people. And yeah, there's obviously a built-in competition for love and attention. We have what I imagine is a sibling standard love-hate relationship, but occasionally, there's moments, however fleeting, where you just understand each other. What immediately comes to mind is the shared hatred of the fact we'd have to walk home from the bus stop uphill, regardless of how awful the Australian weather is. The joy when a parent or older sibling drives down to pick us up from the bus stop. We all worked at McDonald's as our first job, and we especially despise the working conditions and minimal pay. I'm also pretty sure it's a law of thermodynamics that when siblings are seated in the back of a car together, there's no choice but to annoy the living hell out of each other. And finally, eating food out of the cupboard and fridge that definitely was too good to be for the kids was a staple of our childhood. Extra points if you can incriminate the other sibling. When the Roy siblings were just having fun, doing funny voices, eating Peter's cheese, making gross food shakes. I was there, man. I believed it. That maybe we'd get an ending that was more bittersweet than pure tragedy. Of course, we know how the events conspire. How silly of me. Before I talk about Roman's conclusion, that will be truly brief, I'd like to lament my favourite moments from Roman throughout the show. I like when Jerry does up his buttons, it's really sweet. There's a pantheon of emotional outbursts throughout Season 4, which any of them could take the top spot. Roman unable to accept his father is dead, his outburst at Mattson on the mountain, the funeral. However, I think one moment back from the Season 1 finale perfectly encapsulates Roman. When the satellite Roman is coordinating blows up as he's watching the live stream, he turns his phone off, washes his hands, walks back into the party like nothing happened. It's a perfect moment, one where all levels of the production come together, that leaves you feeling like you're levitating. Roman had the least to lose going into this finale, mainly because his lowest point was last week. Thus, him ending up in a bar alone, seemingly content and kind of happy, felt really appropriate. It's the better ending of the three siblings, even though Roman was consistently the worst, and by far the least empathetic. It perfectly expresses this theme of the Roys being incapable of change. Even if there were hints of growth in the beginning of Season 4, those dreams were quickly destroyed. Here, Roman is no better than the first episode, where he conveyed that Waystar Royco would be a bad fit for him and only leave him miserable, as it in fact did.
Just so pleased to be out of here. This place was essentially a cage to me.
Here, he's finally out, lamenting on his time and perhaps ready to move on. If there is one element of the show that is gonna stick with me on a nearly daily basis, it's Nicholas Britell's score. Believe it or not, I quite like classical music, especially piano concertos and orchestral dramatic tracks. I mean, I wish they were generally shorter or broken into convenient contemporary 3-minute chunks, but here Britell does some of the best work we'll likely ever see. The recurrent succession themes and motifs that he makes variations of and remixes are perfect. They evolve and grow throughout the seasons in meaningful manners. It matches the mood and brings an emotional attachment that maybe the audience doesn't always immediately notice, but your brain does. Do I even have to say anything of the opening theme song? Unskippable, contemporary classical at its best and most experimental. At times, the score is dramatic and swelling, or it can be subtle, sad, and quiet. Whatever is required for the scene. Score and soundtrack are a dramatically overlooked element of the filmmaking experience. James Gunn preaches and practices this sentiment, and I love him for that. Britell's score is on a level I haven't connected with since Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings score. It's brilliant. Succession wouldn't be the same without it. Appropriately, Connor spends most of his time in the finale explaining a ridiculous system involving stickers, and is generally overlooked from the main conflicts. Connor is another sibling who made it out mostly unscathed. I think this comes down to the fact Connor has always been true to himself, regardless of how dumb that makes him seem. I really want to emphasize what a powerhouse Alan Ruck is. The fact he's so willing to play pretty much second fiddle to the majority of the main cast is so unbelievably commendable. It's a performance that lifts up every other part of the production. I don't really have too much else to say. His presidential campaign was a constant hysterical note throughout the series. An especially poignant moment in the finale relating to Connor is when we see Logan at a dinner party a few weeks before his death, surrounded by the Greybeard's old guard. Logan has an actual rapport with these people. He's clearly acting warmer and more open. They each have a little adage they say. Connor is invited and even able to make fun of Logan in a sweet way.
I am a little teapot. Fuck off! Short and stout. What did you fucking call me?
It ends with Carl singing this beautiful folk song. The Roy children tearfully sit there and bask in a side of their father they never got. It's really touching and saddening. Here they are, squabbling over nothing while viewing what they missed from their now deceased father. Picking my favourite Connor moment isn't difficult. However, I'll throw out there that Moe's funeral best sums up Connor as a character. Plus, Connor Roy was interested in politics from a very young age is just a perfect bit.
You may print the following line. Connor Roy was interested in politics at a very young age. That's it.
It's a nice church, don't you think?
I'll tell you what a nice church it is. Connor Roy was interested in politics from a very young age.
However, no surprise, my favourite moment was his emotional monologue from episode 2 of this season. This is easily in my top 5 Succession moments. I'm a plant that grows on rocks and lives off insects that die inside of me.
If Willa doesn't come back, that's fine, because I don't need love. It's like a superpower.
Come on! That's incredible! This section is more for a general discussion of the directing and cinematography on display. Now, obviously there's far more directors than Mark Mylod, it's just simpler to use his name as an overall figurehead. Succession's filmmaking takes the style of a pseudo-documentary, cameras rushing about like we're not meant to be there. Often, the cameras will miss or react to the dramatic action in the room, or even linger on someone's reaction rather than cut or pan to the speaker. Succession isn't a cinematic odyssey like Mr. Robot, Barry, or even Better Call Saul, where on a weekly basis they can reinvent their style, pull off crazy sequences, and experiment in non-conventional manners. Succession is far more consistent and instead works within its own established visual language to ramp up the bold images to let the silence and reactions of the characters drive a scene. Often the evolution comes from the insane opulent scenery and vistas the show can afford to present. However, as the series continues on, the imagery almost becomes biblical, with massive reoccurring motifs like Kendall in the water, the track-in action shot from behind an actor walking. The block-in between the siblings is always fabulous, the way the camera finds a way to frame characters in the foreground and background. It's a style perfectly suited to the material on screen. While it's certainly present in the first 5 episodes of the series, as we move into the later seasons, it becomes bolder and far more visually striking. If any one character was going to be stuck in endless controversial discourse for eternity, of course it was going to be the female one. This will, by far, be the most controversial section of this video. It really shouldn't be, but here we are. That's your warning, your chance to skip this section. Okay, let's think about recent media history. You know, Breaking Bad. Walter is a family hero. Skylar, what a bitch. Captain Marvel, just another average Marvel movie? Oh no, wait, it's actually the worst, and that's not because the lead is female. I didn't see you guys getting up in arms about fucking Doctor Strange. Last of Us Part 1? Joel is a very likable, relatable human character. Last of Us Part 2? Ellie and by extension Abby are the worst characters in any single piece of media ever. Said people who definitely played the game and understand human emotions. Guys, I'm seeing a trend here. A lot of hate being sent in one direction. Weird. With that in mind, let's skip straight to Shiv's controversial decision. Because it really shouldn't be this hard to understand. Let me break it down for you. Shiv in the last episode played quite a good game of power, and placed herself as Kendall's adversary. However, Matsson and Tom betray Shiv. This leaves Shiv pretty upset, thus she decides to back Kendall. Kendall, who very quickly makes it clear that he's going to overlook Shiv once again, thinking it's an easy lock for his win. Shiv is placed in this lose-lose position of being powerless. Now remember, Shiv wants to be the head of a massively successful, conservative media company. That was never gonna happen. Thus, Shiv, in her position where she feels entirely powerless, makes the only move she has. one that is at odds with Kendall, and by extension her own tangible interests of power. Shiv makes a decision that is not entirely rational, because we are complicated, emotional human beings who make contradictory decisions all the time. Shiv makes the decision to use the only leverage she has in this powerless situation to gain any level of autonomy back. Kendall's response all but proves her right. Yes, she ends up losing in the long run. But here's the thing. People seem to easily understand when Kendall or Roman make an emotionally charged decision. But as soon as it comes to the one with tits, it's a ridiculous notion. To have the world entirely stacked against you, systems and laws that were actively made not in your favor, to have your rights continually stripped from you, when you have the option to claw back just a little bit of autonomy, even if it's just for a brief moment in time, you do it. If you can't understand this, then it's probably because you're like me, a dude. We can't ever fully understand, and that's okay. I personally think Shiv's decision is entirely justified, and Kendall's reaction confirms this. Even though the outcome is extremely depressing. The writers are masters of the form. They've only ever made decisions that are appropriate and respectful to the characters they crafted. Yet, here we are in another occasion where a female character is thrown into scathing discourse.
I was the only one you wanted. Yeah? I was the only one who mattered.
Yeah, only because you're the girl. Girls count double now, didn't you know?
Oh, yeah. No, I know. I fucking know.
It's only your teats that give you any value.
With that out of the way, let's discuss some of my favourite Shiv moments, which are harder to pin down because Tom is usually so interlinked. I think the Turnhaven outburst best represents her character and the flaws of what'll be her downfall. The season 2 finale beach scene is certainly up there. Sarah Snook's reaction is flawless in the shock and consideration going through her face. Furthermore, her childlike instincts and reaction of finding out her father has died sticks out as heartrending. However, and it's a little bit cheating because Tom plays such a large role, but the balcony scene so perfectly pays off all the tension of their marriage and stays true to their characters. Particularly the way Shiv is able to nearly shrug off the outburst, regain composure, and go back to the party. Finally, I think Shiv's ending is tragic. Not quite as bad as Kendall, but not great. The way Tom extends his hand like the Godfather, and Shiv gently places it on top as if to sign a contract, is just perfectly miserable. You long for when Shiv started as a rebellious child working in left-leaning politics, compared to the end where she was consumed by her father and the company he constructed. Turned into her own mother, as she's in a loveless marriage to a man who sits in a more powerful position. The powerless cycle continues. The inability to change. Succession breaks the television status quo in a way that feels decades ahead, a right-in-first approach, and careful, respectful consideration on all levels of the production. Funnily enough, this is in contrast to the Roys themselves, who fought so hard to keep the status quo going. This show doesn't work without its intricate, perfect writing. Jesse Armstrong and his team of writers are incredible. The research they did, the deliberation on what would fit, is unmatched. This is the closest we'll get to modern day Shakespeare. Not every show has the HBO resources that Succession does. However, if the writing is good and considered, regardless of the level of production, that'll reflect in the final product. It's why Andor works, it's why Better Call Saul works, it's why Succession works. Of course, it helps that they cast people perfectly to match the gospel they put on the page. Poor Kendall. I truly thought at moments that this may be Kendall's win. Especially when the finale started with Kendall on the back foot, which seemed to indicate to me the space for Kendall to overcome and once again just pull through. Kendall throughout the back half of this season has been extraordinarily competent. From the Livin' Plus speech to the funeral monologue to just straight up being able to play the cold Logan-esque power moves. When the siblings finally came together and anointed King Kendall, I was very excited to see what the final showdown would look like, particularly with the earlier notion of a Tom vs siblings showdown. Kendall is in prime position to finally get what he's always wanted, what was taken away from him in episode 1. But he can't help but fuck it up as usual. You can see the cogs turning in Shiv's brain as Kendall makes reckless decisions such as giving Stewie a chair without any discussion. When we finally make it to the boardroom vote, this was Kendall's big moment for a rousing speech that convinces people he isn't full of shit. Instead, he chooses to be a cocky asshole who skips over procedure and gives an almost cringeworthy response to the board's Gojo offer proposal.
Yeah, this deal, the deal is a bad deal.
I think this is Ken's first downfall. We know he has the chops to convince a room. He's done it multiple times this season in high-risk situations, and here he is, being lazy and overconfident. At this point, Shiv leaves the room, unable to vote. Here's Ken's second downfall. He quickly loses control of his emotions. You can see the almost panic start to set in. If he'd just adjourned the meeting, kept calm, let Shiv consider her position, he may just have won. But he can't help himself. At the whiff of being undermined, he loses his calm, confident persona, following Shiv into another room. Finally, and this has always been Kendall's big downfall, he can't handle any pushback. Just like Season 3 Episode 2, the second the room starts to turn on him, he reacts like a spoiled child. Ken's reaction to Shiv's reconsideration is ultimately what kills him forever. The bitter entitlement instilled by Logan bubbles to the surface. This final sibling squabble was unreal. Kendall's absolute inability to adapt his position to the new circumstances is on display. Ken regresses into a literal child, yelling that he is the eldest boy. And you know, at that exact moment, why it could never be Kendall. His rolling back of what was a truly touching moment of vulnerability and confession from the Season 3 finale is unbelievably stupid and the kind of shit you think sounds smart in the panicked moment, but really is just pathetic and damns you forever. Roman's response of repeating some truly despicable rumors that only Logan could have come up with about Kendall's children is awful. It really is a wow, these kids just never learn moment. The escalation of the fight into a literal fight in Kendall physically abusing Roman out of rage, then into a brother wrestling match is just the nail in the coffin for these sad children. Right here, at the very end, at the climax of the conflict, Roman says perhaps the most true statement any of the siblings have ever uttered.
Hey, we are bullshit.
We are not bullshit.
We are bullshit. You are bullshit. You're fucking bullshit, man. I'm fucking bullshit. She's bullshit. It's all fucking nothing.
They're bullshit. They always have been. This business personal squabble is about nothing. Their nothingness bullshit. Kendall storms out of the office one final time. Picking my favourite Kendall moment is a harder process. Of course, L to the OG immediately comes to mind. Same with the Season 2 cliffhanger and the joy I had for Kendall finally meaningfully standing up to his father. The Season 1 finale, where Kendall just breaks down to his father, is ingrained in my mind. Kendall's Season 1, Episode 6, boardroom vote failure best represents everything the character is. The fact that Kendall can be competent, but inevitably fails. Because, well, he wasn't made for this world.
But for the world? Nah. I'm sorry. You're not made for it.
However, I think back to a moment this season that truly had me engrossed in the moment, exactly on the same page as the character. Season 4, Episode 6's conclusion, Kendall at the beach, finally floating. Truly, the emotions going through me of just entirely being on the same page as the character. And the show, plus the music, was out of this world. I say that I was levitated in moments quite a lot, but it feels especially appropriate here. You can even hear in my review the absolute enthusiasm that I built to. Finally, Kendall's tragic defeat. The final sequence of the show. Kendall made kaput, once and for all. As Kendall continually reminds his siblings, Logan promised this to him from when he was 7 years old. That he was a cog made only to fit one machine ever. This is his purpose. He's nothing if he can't do this one thing. The problem is, this entitlement, the world Logan created for his children, already turned them into broken nothingness bullshit. Kendall could never win, and that's for the better. Finally, he walks down to the seaside, basking in the warmth of the sunset, a sailor trapped from the sea, a place, a feeling he briefly made it to, but will never go back to ever again. Forever a loser, as he always was, unable to change. Speaking of people who didn't lose, oh yeah baby, it's that time. Let's do it once more with feeling. It's time to talk about the one and only Tom motherfucking Wambsgans! Tom motherfucking Wambsgans. Tom motherfucking Wambsgans. Tom motherfucking Wambsgans. Tom motherfucking Wambsgans. It's Tom motherfucking Wambsgans. The Tom motherfucking Wambsgans. Tom motherfucking Wambsgans. He's Tom motherfucking Wambsgans. Tom motherfucking Wambsgans.
Motherfucker.
My boy, my number one boy, here at the end, ascending his throne. I always believed in you, absolutely no crisis of faith along the way, ever. It's hard to say that the finale for Tom looks like anything other than a total fucking disaster. The immense joy I had at the notion as the episode progressed that would be getting siblings vs. Tom was unmatched. I really love the season 3 finale and Tom's betrayal. It remains another one of those moments where it just fully cements a character. I already loved Tom and Greg, but this Tom father idea was just perfect. And I know how the discourse goes. You bunch of little Gregs will try and take this away from him. He's just sucking Madison's dick. I will not let go of what is mine. Tom 1, fuck you.
Unless there is one other. Who? Shiv. Should I be worried about Tom?
Tom?
In all seriousness, I think it's entirely appropriate that even the person who clearly won didn't really win. There aren't any real winners, just sad people. Tom's soft pitch to Madison is unbelievably smart. He really plays into exactly what Madison wants to hear with a feeling of honest expression. Whether this is just Tom's nature or is a play, we'll never know. However, I think the way he carefully considers his words indicates that he's a smart cookie. Greg the little Judas, too busy leaking information, trying to be part of a stupid quad, rather than backing our boy who brought him this far. The ultimate Tom Greg breakdown was perfect. The visceral violence is just electric. The spur of excitement, which is Shiv finding out Tom has betrayed her again, is another powerhouse moment, bouncing off each other. I would be remiss not to mention that Tom taking back Greg after everything might be my favourite scene of the episode. Their expressions, the way Matthew McFadyen says, "You piece of shit."
You are a fucking piece of shit.
And finally, the dramatic and comedic timing of the sticker is perfect. I'm just so happy Tom won. Okay, favourite Tom moments, and there's so many. I mean, Tom eating the chicken, what a classic. Tom's reaction to the Cruises document.
No, thank you. Please leave me alone, please, thank you.
Tom in the Tunnel of Affirmations. Tom saying he'd castrate and marry Greg in a heartbeat, like Sporus, may just be the most beautiful words ever uttered on planet Earth.
I'd castrate you and marry you in a heartbeat.
However, for me I think it comes down to my two favourite episodes of the series. The first being Safe Room. Now, this episode is just perfect in terms of comedy and dramatic tension. To me, there's so many classic Succession moments. Connor at Mo's funeral, Roman at management training, the visual symbolism of Kendall's roofside laments and how trapped he is, all culminating in his breakdown to Shiv. But really, the star of the episode is the Tom and Greg breakup. It's so good. The way he starts pelting the bottles at Greg never doesn't crack me up. Finally though, my other favourite episode is Season 3, Episode 6, What It Takes, the Republican Conference. I'm going to skip immediately to my favourite Tom scene. This video is long enough. The cafe showdown between Ken and Tom is like my two absolute favourite actors just going bananas. The consideration and manoeuvres they both play, the way they use their hands to act. Chef kiss.
My hunch is that you're going to get fucked. Because I've seen you get fucked a lot. And I've never seen Logan get fucked once.
To climax this scene with Tom's incredible one-liner, which immediately follows a scene where we follow Tom through the hotel to where Logan is picking the next president.
Do you know what they're doing up in the suite? They're picking the next president.
Instilled this ultimate sadness in me. Tom feels so out of place, and it's really a moment where I just related and connected with him on every level. Well, this has been quite the review. What a show Succession is. It'll be truly missed. Let's wrap this up. In 2021, just before the premiere of Season 3 of Succession, I released my first video on the show. It was a 9-minute, one-take monologue in front of a pool. I'm proud of that video to this day. Sure, some parts of the script could use a tune-up. I'm still finding my on-camera presence. You know, I haven't quite mastered the TMZ Watch Mojo clickbait influencer voice. But I have now. At the end of the video, I fell back into a pool and floated, drowned into eternity. I thought it was a neat thematic flavour for the video. It ended it on a strong, weird note. Plus, Succession had this subtle subtext with Kendall and water, so it worked. Little did I know, in Season 3 and 4, that water subtext with Kendall would become a distinct recurring motif. In the video, I made a few poignant points that I feel hold up even now. In reality, a family like the Murdochs are evil parasites that you can hardly rationalize because it's absurd. However, in the safety of TV, you can explore these ideas in a comedic way that can hopefully make some sense of this crazy, stupid world. This sentiment here is something I feel carries throughout the series. I hate the Murdochs for the very real damage they've done to humanity. However, I care for and understand the Roys, as you do eventually for any person or character you spend this much time with. In 2023, just before the premiere of Season 4 of Succession, I released my second video on Succession. A more video essay style read-in of Season 3, Episode 2. I even mentioned Watch Mojo. These are Watch Mojo's top anti-heroes. Ooh, don't we like a callback to a minute ago? The thesis of that video was how no matter what the characters reflected on or what tool they used, they were always selfish to the core. Everything becomes a move in their game of power. It was pure praise of writing these characters true to themselves, which just so happened to be villains. Not anti-heroes or lovable rapscallions, but bad people. Here in the final season, the Roy children cemented their fate, true to themselves and humanity, failing to grow in any meaningful manner. For 10 weeks, I made weekly reviews of Succession, building on these ideas, interpreting each episode as best as I could in a timely manner. Really, it was Pat Mojo's top 10 weeks of Succession videos. Going through my big folder of piano concertos to find music to match the tone, scrambling to finish scripts, record in time, edit through the night and upload on my potato Australian internet. Sounds of fun. But it was brilliant. Alas, this is the end. While the characters in Succession, Kendall, Roman and Shiv, are incapable of change, I am not. People can and do change and grow. Arguably, you can see in real time over the last 5+ years of videos I've made, ways I've grown. My two favourite series, James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy and Jesse Armstrong's Succession, both ended at the height of their popularity, going out on top, keeping up an unmatched level of quality to their respective fields. If the world isn't suggesting that maybe it's time I move on, then I don't know. My Succession weekly videos have undeniably been my most successful video series, which I'm proud of, but this more than likely will be my last weekly review series. I'd be lying if I said they didn't take effort and an unhealthy level of attention on something that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter. But listen, if I woke up one morning and no longer had to worry about bills or my career, I'd never stop making videos. Ever. However, Nothing is forever, and that's a part of what makes it beautiful. We try so hard to find some stability, some meaning in life, in religion, in art, to find a purpose. Logan Roy inflicted powerful, poisoned purpose on his children, from Logan's own actions to the environment that the Roy children grew up in. Through the course of succession, none of his children were able to ever meaningfully let go or move on from this built-in feeling of entitlement. And look where they ended up. I don't know what my purpose is, like most people, but I have this inescapable feeling that it's time to move on. And that's okay. This moment in time, right now, will be here forever. I'll always be able to look back fondly on these reviews and remember the ecstatic emotions I had watching Succession.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe